Okay, welcome to Home with Friends. Today is my first solo episode. If you're wondering why I look like a movie star, it's because I got my hair and makeup done today by Nataliya and Caitlyn. I will tag them, but if you are in Charlotte and you don't know who they are, you're living under a rock. Hype is real. I actually looked in the mirror when they were done and I was speechless. I was just like I didn't know that my hair could do this, and I didn't know that my face could look like this. So anyways, hype is real. They're amazing, and I could not let the glam go to waste. So I figure what better day than to record my first solo Home with Friends podcast episode. Now, this is what I'm thinking. Hopefully it goes well. I was going to just give a little background about how I got into mortgages, what brought me to Charlotte. I was kind of going to take you on my own little journey, but then I asked you guys to send in some questions of what you're interested in and what you want to know. And they're a little bit all over the place. So I just sent all the questions to my computer. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to pull them up and answer them one by one. And I feel like obviously some will have more context, more background. I'll probably go on some tangents, but I feel like that's probably the easiest way as opposed to just talking and potentially just talking about things that you guys don't care about. Okay, don't even know what order these are in, so they're gonna be all over the place. Here we go. First question, if you could go back and change your career, would you? What would you do? Okay. If I could go back in time, I would say I would love a job in like PR. And I'm thinking like Samantha from Sex and the City PR for like A-list, high profile people, like behind the scenes, just dealing with all of their stuff. I just feel like that would be really, really fun, but also high stress in a good way. Like I need it. I need my job to be demanding. That's kind of where I thrive when I have a lot to do and a lot to get done. I'm very organized. I'm very like make a list, get it done. But there'd also be a lot of fun perks that came with that job. So that would be cool. Okay. Next question. How do you envision splitting things with your partner? Do you go 50-50, especially on dates? If I'm going on a date, especially a first date or for the first couple dates, and a guy is courting me, I'm of course going to let him pay. I don't even offer, not because I'm trying to be like any type of way, but I almost think it makes it more awkward to offer. Like if we're on a first date and the check is coming and the guy isn't expecting to pay, then like I don't need to be going on a second date. You know what I mean? It's like if I were to take my card out and be like, oh, do you want to split this? I would hope that he would be like, what? No, stop being weird. Like put your card away. I got this. So with dates, especially in the beginning, I would like the guy to pay. I just think it's courtesy and that's just my opinion. Now, when it comes to being in a relationship and splitting bills, I'm happy to go 50-50 on most things. I don't mind that. I'm trying to think of like scenarios where I wouldn't want to go 50-50. I don't know. We'll continue down that path in a little bit. Okay. Would you date a man that made less than you? As you'll see, a lot of these questions are about dating and men. And that was just very interesting because I thought it was all going to be about real estate and money, but apparently that's not what you guys care about. Okay. Would you date a man that made less than you? Yes, I would date a man that made less than me. I have dated men that make less than me. As long as we are on the same page about how we're going to handle money and we can talk about it and have an open conversation about it, I'm fine. Would you date a man who didn't own property? Yes, I would date a man that didn't own property. I have dated men that didn't own property. That's not a red flag to me. It's not on my non-negotiables. It's not on my like deal breaker list to own a property. It's a plus, but there's certain situations where maybe owning a property doesn't necessarily make sense. But yeah, so to answer the question, I would date a man that didn't own property. Why you so fine? That's the next question. Well, I'm so fine because I got my hair done by Nataliya and I got my makeup done by Caitlyn Michelle. And I will tag them below so you can get fine too, ladies. Okay, next question. I don't even know if this is a question. It just says, dating after dating someone you loved deeply. I don't know what the question is. I guess my comment to that comment is be respectful and don't play with people's feelings and don't use people. So my advice there, I guess, is really heal and work on yourself. I'm not saying you need to be fully healed and fully moved on, but if it's someone you loved deeply, which is what this question says, then I would assume there was some heartbreak. So I would at least give yourself a couple months to process. Next question. I swear there's some real estate in here. Next question. Who's your man? LOL. If you think I'm going to get on YouTube and get on the internet and answer the question, who's my man, then you don't know me. Next question. Are your boobs real? I was actually debating answering this one. But if I want people to come on my podcast and be vulnerable, then I need to be vulnerable and honest. It's not even vulnerable. This one's more honest. No, they are not. And funny story, actually, this was back when I moved to Charlotte, 2014. I knew I wanted to get them done, but I didn't even know where to start. I was just Googling surgeons or whatever. I was on a flight. I have no idea where I was going. I don't know where I was flying, but I was on an American Airlines flight, and I was reading one of the seat back magazines. And in it, you'll know what I'm talking about if you fly a lot. I don't know if they're still in there, but it was one of the American Airlines magazines, and in the middle, there was a section of top plastic surgeons in the country. It's a thing. It's probably still in the planes today. So I'm like flipping through it. I'm bored. And one of the doctors was it was Hunstad. I think I'm saying that right. Dr. Hunstad. And it was a picture of him, whatever. And it was Charlotte, North Carolina. I was like, oh my God, it's a sign that I need to get my boobs done by this guy. So I did some research, come to find out. So it's now Hunstad Cortesys, and then I forget the third doctor. When I went, it was Hunstad Cortesys. And come to find out, super reputable. Everyone loves them. They do an amazing job. So many good reviews. So I was like, oh, wow. So I booked a consult. Dr. Cortesys is actually the doctor that I ended up going to. And I have zero regrets. I loved him. He was amazing. I have a friend that has gone to him. She's super happy. So yeah, if you are thinking about getting any plastic surgery, that's who I would recommend, Hunstad Cortesys. And I mean, I have a computer in front of me. I forgot I can literally Google it. Let's see. It's now HKB. What's the B stand for? Okay, I don't even know. It's HKB, cosmetic surgery. So that's who I went to. Okay, where were we? Okay, I answered all of those. Next. If you could switch bodies and be a female celebrity for the day, who would you be? You know what? You might not believe me, but I actually didn't plan answers to these because I wanted this to be organic. I didn't want it to feel scripted. And now I'm feeling put on the spot by myself. Like I'm putting my own self on the spot. Okay, if you could switch bodies and be a female celebrity for the day, who would you be? Female celebrity. I'm not even thinking body, like, oh, I want her body. I'm thinking like life, like who lives just like a fast, crazy, insane life. I'm going to say Alex Earl because I feel, or Alex Cooper, both of them are just having fun and they're millionaires. I feel like Alex Cooper, I'd have a lot of business meetings all day just with so much she's doing because I know her life. Just kidding. Alex Earl. I'm going to go with Alex Earl. I feel like she's going to Coachella next week. She's getting ready. She's getting prepped. Like, I would definitely take a day in the life of her. Okay. What's the most expensive house you funded? So in mortgages, I guess the answer you're probably looking for who asked this is like the biggest loan amount, because I could fund a $5 million home, but if they put a ton of money down or only need a $200,000 loan. I mean, that's a little bit unrealistic, but my point is, it doesn't matter the value of the home. My biggest loan amount, so I've only had a loan amount over $1 million 4 times. I've been doing this for almost 7 years. October will be 7 years. And I've had 4 loan amounts over $1 billion. Like 1.4 million, I think, was my biggest. Then it was like 1.3 and then like 1.1 and 1 million, which is obviously extremely exciting when you get it. It's like, you get that like little adrenaline rush of like, ooh, $1 million deal. But yeah, there 3 of them, 3 out of the 4 were VA loans for veterans. And the reason why that actually makes sense is because with VA loans, whether it's a purchase or a refinance, you can go up to 100% financing, whereas you can't do that with an FHA loan or a conventional loan. So the veteran can borrow more than the typical borrower, so their loan amounts can be higher. Okay, if you could have any other job besides being an LO, what would you want to get into? I already answered that. How you get an ass like that. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 S's. How you get an ass like that. Well, usually when I'm on my A game, I'm in the gym doing squats. I got my leg day workout. My butt is not really where I would like it to be at the moment. So let me work out a little bit this summer and then I'll get back to you. Okay? Okay. What was your biggest month in mortgages? Biggest month in mortgages was in 2021. It's actually really like, it makes me a little bit cringe, like even saying this number, because I know it sounds absolutely unfathomable. And it's a little bit sickening and it's a little bit embarrassing, even though it shouldn't be. But I literally made over $60,000 in 1 month. And it's really like, I've said it before, but like the COVID money was different. It just was. Rates were at a historical low. Every single person was refinancing. People were buying. Like, it was a really crazy time. So I had the highest of highs. But as I record today, it actually happens to be one of the worst days in the market, and rates are at the highest highs that they've been in, I think, a year, maybe longer. I haven't looked at my email in a minute, but I've had some high highs, definitely had some low lows as well. But yeah, that was my biggest month in mortgages. Absolutely insane. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it that we were making that kind of money in 1 month. That's more than people's salary in a year. And I'm not, what's the word? I'm not, like, it's not lost on me, I think is the phrase I'm looking for. I saved a lot of money. I was very good with my money. I'm very grateful. And yeah, very grateful. Next question / comment. Everything. You want to know everything. Okay. We don't have time for everything, but maybe I'll do a solo pod episode, a second solo episode, and we'll talk about everything. Okay. But that's just not going to be today. All right. What it's like to have tenants. Okay. So I have, and there's another question in here right below it that says, how many properties do you own? So I'll answer both at the same time. So I own 2 properties. Back in 2017, am I lying to you? No, I'm not. Okay. Back in 2017, I bought my first townhome. I was 25 years old, and I don't know, I was just ready to buy. My best friend's boyfriend at the time, they're married now, was buying in Wesley Heights. A lot of gentrification going on. Wasn't necessarily like a great area, but I was living in Wesley Village. So it's right over there. It's in Bryant Park for those of you from Charlotte. And he was buying a house there. Like, he was going to be one of the first they were building. And I just remember I had a very simple conversation with him, nothing insane. We were at the pool, and he just kind of like lit that fire and really got like my wheels turning. And I was like, okay, wait, I think I can do that. I want to do that. And I thought I was making good money, but like looking back, it wasn't that great. But I've always been good with my money since I've been young. So I was making like decent money at the time. I was saving and I was like, I think I can afford this. I'm going to look into it. So I looked into it, bought it, and I still own that property today where I'm filming from right now. This is my current home. And I'm renting out that first townhouse. Now, with renting, I got extremely lucky. I asked advice from Courtney, episode 2. Check it out. I asked her for advice because she had a lot of rental properties at the time. And I said, where do I start? And she was like, Zillow. Zillow's a great resource. You can list your home right on there. You can put the rental listing on there. And then for free, they'll generate a lease for you. So all the legal jargon's in there. And what's nice is when people apply through Zillow, I think I have to look it up, but it's a super cheap fee. I want to say it's like $25 for them to apply. So it's an application fee. And then it does like a free credit report and background check, free for me. But what's nice about that is even though it's a small fee, it's people, they have skin in the game at that point. So really you're only getting serious or semi-serious inquiries. It kind of cuts out all the riffraff because if there was no fee, people could just be applying just to apply. So it's people that are pretty serious and pretty intentional. So I went on Zillow, put my listing together. I honestly just used the same. I didn't even take new photos. The photos that were already on there from when I bought the house, I just used those. They're still on there, so outdated. But I put that up there and pretty quickly I was getting inquiries and I was just like, oh my God. Now, this was my first time being a landlord. It was definitely overwhelming. It was definitely scary, but I just really leaned on my friends. I leaned on my coworkers. You can't be afraid to ask questions and ask for help. If you know nothing about something, ask. That's how you learn. I'd be Googling stuff, whatever. So I was like, all right, I guess I got to give tours to these people, So I move out, I get a cleaner in there, I cleaned everything, and then I started scheduling tours. I'd meet people at the house, I'd let them tour it, build a little bit of rapport with them, try to get to know them. I mean, legally, it's like you can't be discriminatory, but at the same time, like this is my home, people are moving into it. Like I want to make sure you're cool. I want to make sure I like you at least a little bit. So I was just kind of getting people's vibes. And there was one couple, boyfriend, girlfriend. They were also from upstate New York and they were young. They were looking for a place. They were really, really cool. I can't remember if his mom was with them. It might've been him, his girlfriend, and his mom. I can't remember. This was like 3 years ago now. But anyways, they were just really, really interested and I liked them. And I was like, yep, perfect. Now I got very lucky, very, very lucky. They moved in and they've been amazing tenants. At first I did a year lease. They were paying $2,300 a month. They paid me every single month. They paid me through Venmo and they were great. So then the year came up. I reached out to them like a month or two before the lease was up. I was like, hey, just checking in. Do you guys think you want to renew? Obviously, I'm going to give you first dibs. And they said, yes, they wanted to renew for a whole nother year, which is obviously amazing. So perfect. We kept it moving. Now, after year 2, I reached out and they were like, well, we actually don't know if we want to sign for another lease. We are getting to a point where we might want to buy our own place. We don't know if we're going to stay in Charlotte, but because they've been so great, I've had zero issues with them as tenants. I've had issues with the dryer or with the fridge or like the wash machine or the, dishwasher, things like that. But as far as them as tenants, they've been amazing. So I was like, listen, whatever you need. If you need month to month, we can go month to month. And that's what they wanted. So I said, perfect, sounds good. I did increase the rent. So it was $2,300. It went to $2,500, but it was month to month. I just said to them, all I ask is that you give me at least a couple months notice, heads up when you're ready to leave. I don't care when it is, but that way it'll give me time to get some tenants in there. And then sure enough, they texted me like a month ago and they were like, hey, so we're actually moving back to New York. I was like, no, I wish they could stay forever. So they're moving out end of May. They gave me plenty of notice. So I will be renting that out again. Maybe I will do another episode when I get that house ready to rent and I can kind of focus just on that and walk you guys through how I do it in Zillow, what I did, just like how everything actually works in Zillow, what the lease looks like, all of that. But hopefully it's smooth and hopefully I get some good tenants because of course there's going to be, people have nightmare tenant stories and I know that's just, it comes with the territory, but that home, I bought it for $285, I think. Yes, I bought it for $285. And I could probably sell it right now for 40, I want to say. And what was really nice, so when I bought it, I did a 30-year mortgage. When rates were extremely low after COVID, 2021, I refinanced myself, and I refinanced into a 15-year mortgage at like 2%, like 2.1%. It's crazy. So I only have 11 years left on that house, maybe 10. I don't even know. I should know, but that's going to be paid off. It's just going to be a really, really good investment property. So I'm going to hang on to that. Okay, next question. How do I get a body like yours? Well, this is like similar to how'd you get an ass like that? I will get back to you. Okay. What made you want to get into podcasting? I've always wanted to, I like to talk. And I've always like wanted to get into podcasting once podcasting became a big thing. I listen to podcasts. I have my rotation of like 5 or 6 podcasts that I listen to religiously every single week. Some are twice a week, whatever it may be. So I've always like just thought it would be fun. But I always told myself I want it to be separate from work. I don't want it to be about mortgages. I don't want it to be about real estate. And look at me now. But I don't know. I just wanted to keep the two separate. Even though I love my job. I love the people I work with. It's not like I'm necessarily passionate about mortgages. Like, who's passionate about mortgages, right? So I wanted to find something I was passionate about. But then it's like, what am I going to get on here and talk to you guys about? I'm not an influencer. I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm not going to like tell you about my day. No one cares about my day. So I did a lot of thinking like, okay, if mortgages and real estate and all that really is my field of expertise, and that is, I am the go-to person for my friends that need help or just have questions or use me as a resource. How can I kind of incorporate the two? So that's how I came up with Home with Friends. The name is a little bit of, yes, I'm in my actual home with my friends, but then also home, real estate, little play on words there. So I just came up with the idea of like, let's sit down, let's actually talk about real estate and money and these things that we're all dealing with and we're all thinking about, but make it fun. I don't want the vibe to be like, this is a finance class or I'm trying to educate people. Of course, like if I can share information and you learn something, that's amazing. But I didn't want it to be stuffy like that. So it's just for fun. It's for fun. And I'm usually like recording on the weekends because I do have a full-time job and so do all my friends. So it's just like a fun little like weekend something to do when there's nothing else to do. So that's what made me want to get into podcasting. Okay. How much more do you like doing this job than RV sales? RV is Red Ventures. That was my first job in Charlotte. And the girl who asked this, we used to work together. It's funny because people hate on Red Ventures, hate on it. I loved it. I really did. Like towards the end. So I was in sales for my first couple of years there and I was selling DirecTV on the phones. I mentioned this in one of my first episodes, which of course is not a glamorous job. Like we did have to request to go to the bathroom, like click a request button to go to the bathroom. So it was just like a typical sales job. Like there, it was a revolving door of salespeople in and out. So it's not like it was the best job in the world, but it was perfect for where I was at in life. I was young. I was fresh out of college. I was 21. I was hungry. Everyone there was young. We were having fun. The culture at the time, the RV that exists right now in Valentine, that didn't exist. I was up in University area in North Charlotte, but still the culture was great. Like we weren't like drinking on the job, but like they had kegs there. They would always try to do like fun things. They built a new office. They had a bowling alley. They had a basketball court. Just that was the whole point, was to just make it a fun workplace. And I ate that shit up. Like I drank that Kool-Aid. I loved it. Okay. So how much more do I like this job than sales? I could never do those sales now. I love my job and I love what I do now. Okay. Why do you look so effing good? Appreciate it. Again, hair, makeup linked below. How did you become the baddest? Hair, makeup tagged below. Okay, guys, 4 more questions, then we'll wrap. How many properties do you own? I did already answer this, but I'll talk a little bit more about this. So I own 2 properties right now. my goal was to buy another home this year in 2025. But the fact that it's already April is a little bit scary. I feel like the beginning of this year just flew by and I don't know what happened. So realistically, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I definitely will be buying another property next year, and I will definitely be hanging on to this one as well, just like I did with the first. So I'll have 2 rental properties, and then who knows what my third will be. Here's the trick. It's not even a trick, but it's important. When you buy a home, if you buy it as your primary residence, meaning you're living in it full time or at least majority of the year, you only have to put 3% down if you're a first time home buyer. And then after that, for your second, third, fourth, fifth home, the minimum down is 5%. Okay. For an investment property, that is not the case. You have to put way more down, 20%, 25%. You're going to get way better pricing with 25%. So if I just right now go buy another home to rent out and buy it as an investment property, my rate is going to be much higher. My monthly payment's going to be much higher. How much I have to come out of pocket is going to be much higher. So what you do, you buy the home, and the law is that you have to live in it for at least 1 year before you can move out and rent it in order for it to be considered a primary. I can't buy it, say it's going to be my primary, and then not move into it and rent it out. That's called mortgage fraud. Don't do that. I also can't say I'm going to buy it as my primary and then be like, oh, I'm just going to live in it for a couple months, then rent it out. You can't do that. It has to be 1 year. So just like I did with this property, I mean, I've been in this now since 2022. So, I'm well over a year, but that's always my intention. That was my intention. I'm going to be in it at least 1 year. Then I'll move out, then I'll rent it. So say whatever property I buy next, I will move into it for at least a year, and then I'll rent it. So even if I don't think it's going to be my forever home, I'm moving into it. So that is just a little bit of a pro tip on how to keep your fees down, how to keep your out-of-pocket costs down, rate down, all of that. Next question. A big mistake you see people make when going through the mortgage/home buying process. Okay, so this one's tough because there's a couple different things I could say. First thing I will say is please ask questions. As a loan officer, when I'm working with a first-time home buyer, I absolutely do not expect you to know what's going on. I don't. I expect to hold your hand. I expect to help you. I expect you to ask 100 questions. And I rather it be that way. I rather us hop on a call, walk through something together. I rather over explain and you understand and feel good and move forward, as opposed to you just kind of nodding and e-signing and then think you're getting ripped off. You're getting a bad deal. You're overwhelmed, you're having anxiety, you don't know what to do, if you should transfer this money to that account, and then you do something and it messes something up. Please, please, please ask questions. If you're working with somebody that makes you feel dumb for asking questions, then you're working with the wrong person. I will never make somebody feel dumb. I encourage people to ask questions. It helps tremendously. So that's number one. Number two, I see a lot of first-time home buyers really lean on their parents, their friends, other people for financial advice. And listen, 8 times out of 10, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Respectfully, they just because they own a home does not mean they know how mortgages work. Just because they bought a house 30 years ago doesn't mean they understand what your interest rate should be. Again, the loan officer, whoever you're working with, we are the expert. We do this all day, every single day. We know what we're talking about. Hopefully you're working with someone that knows what they're talking about. So lean on us. I understand you can think at the end of the day, oh, well, I'm making money off you. I don't care. I just want to make money. Of course, there's some loan officers out there that are like that, but hopefully you kind of can gauge the person's character and their vibe. And if they're really trying to help you, they're the expert. A lot of times someone will just stop answering emails, stop answering phone calls. And then 3 days later, oh, I'm so sorry. My uncle looked at the loan estimate and said I was really getting ripped off. So I went to this other lender. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's backpedal a little bit. First of all, I appreciate you telling me the truth. Second of all, is your uncle a loan officer? Is your uncle really into real estate? Does he own a ton of properties? Oh, no. He lives in New York. He's lived in New York forever. I think he only has one house. Okay. All right. Well, can you send me the loan estimate from this other lender? And then we take a look at it and then we compare. And the rate might be a little bit lower and the fees are $12,000 higher. And a little bit of context there, any lender can get you any rate. Okay. So I can give you a 6%, and lender Joe Schmo over here can get you a 6%. It's the cost for that 6%. I might charge you $1,000. They might charge you $2,000. We need to look at, usually it's section A on a loan estimate. It's going to break down origination fee, application fee, processing fee, points. That's where all the lender fees are. That's typically what the lender has control over. Things like title fees and escrows, homeowners insurance, property taxes. The lender can't control that. That's going to end up being the same no matter what lender you work with. Okay. So if you work with me or Joe Schmo, your escrows are going to be exactly the same. So what we want to look at is what Joe Schmo is charging you for the 6%. But what'll happen is they'll have 6% with me. They'll go over to Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo will say, hey, I'm going to get you 5.5. Wink, wink. Okay. Well, then they don't say anything to me. Then they try to move forward over there. Then when I actually look at it, I go, listen, I can also get you 5.5. The reason we didn't start there and I didn't recommend it is because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to recoup those closing costs. It's going to take you 11 years to recoup those costs. I would never recommend that. So I'll kind of explain that. And then I'll say, for example, even I could get you a 5.5 and I'd still be cheaper than him. He's charging you 12 grand for 5.5%. I'd only charge you 9 grand for 5.5. But either way, I don't think you should be paying 9 grand for 5.5. I think you paying $1,000 for 6% makes more sense. So hopefully I explained that in a way that it's just like, if you talk to your loan officer, if you feel like you're seeing better deals, you saw an advertisement, a friend's telling you something, bring it to the LO, be honest. Hey, so-and-so told me they can get me. There are times, and my friends can vouch, they'll say, Brittany, so-and-so's getting me this. And I'm like, psh, I can't touch that. It doesn't happen often because as a broker, I have access to multiple lenders. So typically, like if the lender A over here doesn't have great pricing, I can get better pricing with lender B. Like that's how it is. I have access to multiple lenders. So typically I'm going to have the most competitive pricing, but every once in a while, like there'll be a deal that I can't beat. And I'm completely honest. I say, no, that's an amazing deal. Take it and run, lock that in, but I at least appreciate the opportunity to, one, make sure that you're not getting ripped off, and two, see if we can beat it. Okay, I think we have 2 more questions. Do you miss working with me? Yes, I do. You know who you are who asked this. It's actually funny because I feel like we're way closer now than we were when we worked together. I mean, we were still close, but I feel like you're one of my favorite people in the world, and being able to work together every day would be so fun. I would laugh from like the minute I walked in to the minute I left. So yes, I actually really do miss working with you. Okay. And then how did you get into mortgages? That's actually a good question to end with. So I guess I'll tell the funny story of how I ended up at my job. So I was ready to buy a house. I was still working at Red Ventures at the time. I asked a guy friend of mine what he did, how to get started, because he owned a couple homes. So he told me to reach out to my now boss to get a loan. So I reach out to my now boss. I'm like, hey, so-and-so referred me to you. I'm buying a house. I need to get a loan. I know nothing. Tell me everything. And just like the advice I gave, I asked a million questions. So at the time, my boss, it was just a startup. It was him and 2 other people, maybe like 3 other people at the time. So I was a super annoying client. Like I know I was. I feel like he's probably told me that before, but I don't remember. But I know I was annoying. I just asked 5 million questions, but whatever. We get through the process. I close on the house. At the end, because he worked with me, so he had to be so hands-on with me because I was so demanding. I wasn't really demanding. I just was so confused. I didn't know anything and I was doing it on my own. So at the end, he was like, it was, fun, nice getting to know you. You seem fun. You seem hardworking, whatever. Would you be interested in a job? I'm hiring. And I was like, what? No, I'm good where I'm at. Like, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. Like, I'm not looking for another job. Okay. This died and I don't have much battery left. So hopefully we're good to go. I'll wrap up. All right. So what I was saying is, my now boss at the time asked if I wanted a job. I respectfully declined. I was like, no, I'm good. Fast forward a year. I was like, okay, I'm ready for a new job. And I was like, I wonder if, excuse me, I wonder if he remembers me. So I texted him. I'm like, hey, this is Brittany. I don't know if you remember me. You helped me buy my first house last year. When we were done, you asked if I was interested in a job. Well, are you still hiring? And he was like, actually, no, I'm really not. It was a small startup and he had already hired a couple people within that year. So, he wasn't really trying to hire anymore. He's like, but we can meet for, a very casual interview. I was like, okay, sounds good. So we met. Now again, I was a referral from a friend who he had a pretty good relationship with too, which is the only reason why I think he even met with me. But we get there and he says that one of the reasons why he knew he liked me right away is because we sit down. Now, again, this is an interview. Sure, it's casual, but the waitress comes up. She asks if we want anything to drink. And I don't know what I was thinking. And I was just like, yeah, I'll have a Tito's and ginger ale, please. Now, I'm sure there was some sort of vibe set that we were going to have a drink, but probably a beer. I could have ordered a beer. I could have just said, no, I'm good. I'm not going to drink. I'll have a water. Nope. Ordered vodka. And he was just like, oh, all right. And that was that. He offered me the job, and that is how I started in mortgages. And I started as a loan processor, but as soon as I got hired, I knew eventually I wanted to be a loan officer. So I got my license. I took the test. Quick funny story about taking my test. So you have to go take it at a testing center. And it's not just people taking their NMLS exam, which is what you do to become a mortgage loan officer. There's people in there taking their Series 7. There's people in there taking their bar exam. There's other people in there taking different exams. It's just a big testing center with not chaperones, but what are they called? You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, you got to put your phone away and whatever in a cubby. So we sit down and I start taking this test and you can't speak, you can't talk. It's super serious. I'm taking this test and I'm going through these questions and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know any of these answers. And I started freaking out. I was stressed. I was like, I'm not going to pass. I'm literally going to fail. So I'm more than halfway through. I'm not feeling good at all. I am not feeling confident in myself. I'm just I'm like, what? I've been studying for 3-4 weeks. What's going on? So sure enough, there's a hurricane coming through Charlotte, which what are the chances? And all of a sudden, pitch black, the building loses power. So everyone's like, oh, you hear some gas, whatever. Everyone's kind of being quiet. We don't have our phones. Everyone's kind of looking around, and all the proctors, I think they're called. The proctors are like, quiet, stay at your desk. Don't move. Don't speak. Don't talk to anyone around you. They're all freaking out. So we're all just kind of sitting there twiddling our thumbs, kind of looking around. So 20 minutes goes by. 40 minutes goes by. They're trying to give us updates. I don't know who they're talking to, but they're like, we're going to wait. We're going to give it another 30 minutes. And they just kept telling us we're going to wait until the power comes back on. And then people were asking, is it going to pick up where we left off? And I don't think they even knew the answers to some of these questions. And they were like, just be patient. We weren't getting any answers. In my head, I'm like, don't come back on. Don't come back on. Don't come back on. I do not need this power to come back on right now because I definitely was failing and I need to go home and I need to go study all these questions. Now, mind you, I remember there was a guy next to me. I'll never forget. He was freaking out because he had already failed. I think it was a Series 7. I think he already failed a couple times and I forget exactly what it was, but I know for a fact this was his last opportunity. This was his last day he could take it and pass. There was a deadline. So he needed the power to come back on. So he's over here freaking out, needs the power to come back on. This is his last chance before he has to wait another X amount of months before he can even attempt again. I'm over here hoping the power doesn't come back on because I don't know anything on this test. The proctors are freaking out. It's just it was crazy. So a good hour and a half goes by. And I remember they came out and they were like, all right, we're giving it 15 more minutes by whatever time it was. If the power's not back on, you all are going to have to leave. They gave us a contact information, email or something to reach out to get it rescheduled. They had all of our information and whatever. So sure enough, power never came back on. I got so lucky. That poor guy, who knows what happened to him. But anyways, I go home, I run home. And while it was all still fresh in my head, I was like, all right, I pull out I remember I had a big textbook. I'm going through, and in the car, I did a voice note on my phone. I'll never forget. I did a voice note as soon as I got in the car, and I was just spewing questions out from the test or topics RESPA and laws, different things that to remind myself to go back and look it up. So when I got home, I ran to my textbook. I'm looking everything up, highlighting things, studying, and then we had to retake it pretty quickly. I think I retook the test maybe like within a week. And they do these tests, they say that they have like a whole pool of questions. And let's say, they ask you 50 of them. I'm just making that up, but but there's 200 they can choose from. So in my head, I'm like, watch, I'm going to come home, study all this, and it's going to be a totally different set of questions. Like, this isn't even going to help me. But I got really lucky. There was a really good chunk, like I would say majority, that were the same. Not every single one was the same, but majority were the same. And I only knew the answers because I had gone home and looked them up. So I ended up passing technically on my first time, which was good. But I don't know if I would have the first time around. But yeah, that was a funny little story. I feel like that doesn't really ever happen, especially because like hurricanes in Charlotte are not common, but that did happen. And now I am your LO. So you should definitely trust me with your mortgage. Anyways, that's a wrap on my first solo episode. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting. And if you're still watching, I love ya. Mwah. Woo! Woo! Oh, this glam is so good. I'm not over it. I love it. I need to go somewhere tonight.